Hello everyone, welcome to episode 280 of The Pulp Writer Show. My name is Jonathan Muller. Today is a very snowy December 5th, 2025, and today I'm discussing 6 software tools that are useful for indie authors. Before we get into that, we will have Coupon of the Week and then an update on my current writing, publishing, and audiobook projects. So first up, Coupon of the Week. This week's coupon code will get you 50% off the audiobook of Cloak of Blades, book number 4 in the Cloak Mage series, as excellently narrated by Hollis McCarthy at my PayHip store. And that is Blades 2025, BLADES 2025. And as always, the coupon code and the link to my PayHip store will be available in the show notes for this episode. This coupon code will be valid through December the 15th, 2025. So if you need a new audiobook for this winter or for your Christmas travels, we have got you covered. And now for an update on my current writing and publishing projects. As I mentioned last week, Blade of Shadows is out, and it's available at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Kobo, Google Play, Apple Books, Smashwords, and my PayHip store. And it's been doing quite well and gotten a good response from everyone, so thank you for that. And I am looking forward to continuing that series. Now that Blade of Shadows is done, my main project is the 5th book in the Half-Elven Thief series, which is Wizard Assassin. I had originally planned to name it Elven Assassin, but I decided Wizard Assassin sounded a bit punchier, so we went with that instead. I am 46,000 words into it, which puts me on chapter 10 of 16. The final draft will have more chapters because one of the chapters is 11,000 words. I'm going to have to cut it up. I've also noticed that readers in general these days seem to prefer shorter chapters, so I've been trying to lean more into doing that and having books with shorter chapters. I think the rough draft is going to be about 70 to 75,000 words, give or take. So I'm hoping I can finish that next week, and I am cautiously optimistic I can have the book published before Christmas. If I can't get it published before Christmas, it is going to slip to my first book of 2026. But at the moment, and of course, barring our old unwelcome friend, unexpected developments, I am cautiously optimistic I can have it out by Christmas 2025. So watch my website and listen to this space for additional news. My secondary project is also Blade of Storms, which will be the 3rd book in the Blades of Ruin series and the direct sequel to Blade of Shadows. I am about 6,000 words into that, and once Wizard Assassin is done, that will be my main project. I am hoping to have that out at the end of January, but if Wizard Assassin slips to January, then Blade of Storms will necessarily slip to February. In audiobook news, Blade of Flames, the audiobook of the 1st book in the Blades of Ruin series, is now out. And you can get that at Audible, Amazon, Apple, Kobo, Google Play, my own PayHip store, Spotify, and all the other usual audiobook stores. So if you're looking to something else to listen to during your Christmas travels this year, I suggest checking out Blade of Flames, as excellently narrated by Brad Wills. Cloak of Embers, the 10th book in the Cloak Mage series, as excellently narrated by Hollis McCarthy. The recording of that is done, and it is being proofed right now, so I am hopeful we can hopefully have that out before Christmas, if all goes well. And in fact, after I record this podcast episode, I'm going to have to convert the ebook cover of Cloak of Embers into an audiobook cover for Cloak of Embers. So that is where I'm at with my current writing and publishing projects. There is definitely a lot going on. Now we're going to move on to our main topic this week, which is 6 helpful writing tools for indie authors in 2025. Last year, in 2024, I did a round of popular software tools for writers, and I thought I would give a quick update for it. Some of these tools like Calibre and LibreOffice I use, while others like Scrivener and Notion just aren't a great fit for my workflow. I still want to talk about them anyway, since just because I don't use them doesn't mean that they're not good, and a lot of writers do in fact use them. And many writers also have complex systems for organizing their files and would benefit from tools like that. Without further ado, here are 6 pieces of software used for writing and writing adjacent tasks. I should mention before we get going as well that none of these tools are explicitly generative AI tools because, as you know, if you've listened to the podcast over years, my opinion of generative AI remains mostly negative. I have and continue to do some marketing experiments with generative AI elements, but I remain overall unimpressed by the technology. So with that in mind, none of these software tools I'm going to mention have explicit are explicitly AI tools. Some of them do have AI elements that you can plug in and use if you want to, but they aren't part of the core functionality of the application unless you specifically seek it out. So with that in mind, let's get to it. The first one we will talk about is Scrivener. Scrivener is, of course, essentially a word processor and project management system specifically designed for creative or nonfiction writing, unlike a traditional word processor like Microsoft Word, LibreOffice Writer, or Apple Pages. It features tools for outlining, for breaking documents into chapters, tracking word count goals, and etc. One of the major benefits of it is a one-time cost instead of a subscription, because it seems like everything is a subscription nowadays, but Scrivener is still $60 a pop. And they also offer a free trial and student discount, and occasionally go on sale during peak times like the holidays, like this. The downside of this is that Scrivener has a sharp learning curve. For myself, when I write either in Microsoft Word or LibreOffice, and I just sit down and write. When I write an outline, it's a one-word document, and the rough draft is another document that I write until I'm done. Scrivener is definitely a more complex software application, which is, I have to admit, is funny to say because Microsoft Word is ridiculously complicated and has, in my opinion, far more functionality stuffed into it than it really needs. But Scrivener is a different kind of functionality, and therefore the learning curve could be quite high for that. Additionally, this may not be the right the right software tool to work with your style of writing or how you organize your files. And a couple extra thoughts with that is it's important to know yourself. Will you actually use the extra features included with Scrivener, or do they just look cool and shiny? Scrivener really probably is best for those who take extensive notes on their work, especially if trying to organize research based on chapters where it's needed. So if you're a nonfiction writer, or if you're a historical fiction writer or a thriller writer who is very concerned about accuracy in your books, this may be useful for you, so you can put in notes about the proper way to address a duke in 19th century England, or what caliber of ammunition your thriller hero's preferred firearm takes. It's maybe the best for the kind of people who enjoy curating their Notion and Trello accounts and are able to think about their book in a very visual way without letting that process be an excuse to keep them from writing. I'd also say it's good for people who extensively revise blocks of text within a chapter or move chapters around a lot. Number 2 is Canva. Canva has been around for a long time, and it is a platform that makes it easy to create visual content using a drag and drop interface that provides a variety of templates, fonts, and designs to use for things like social media posts. They currently have 2 tiers for individuals, a limited free option and Canva Pro, which is $12.99 a month. Some of the pros for Canva are it is well suited for using templates for writers to create some images for social media posts and book marketing material. And the learning curve is not very steep, especially compared with something like Photoshop. If you used PowerPoint before, you can definitely handle Canva. The cons. Although some people use it to create book covers, many books have been flagged by Kindle Direct Publishing and some of the other publishing platforms for doing so. I would advise you to avoid Canva for creating book covers because of the potential for issues that could keep your book out of ebook stores. At the very least, read Canva's terms of use and the rules of KDP and the other ebook publishers very, very carefully before you would even begin to consider using Canva for this purpose. Many of the free features have been folded into the Pro version, such as sharing template links. The editing and design features are basic compared to something like Photoshop, though that may change as we're going to discuss in a little bit here. And because Canva is so popular, there's a certain amount of snobbery out there about using its designs without significant modification. You may have encountered on social media or the internet people who react very negatively to the presence of AI-generated images, and this exists to a lesser extent with Canva templates. Quote-unquote, looks like it was made in Canva is sometimes used as an insult. If you want a unique style and look for your images, you will have to work a little more to achieve that using Canva. Canva is quick for great one-time things like Facebook or BookBub ads, but I wouldn't recommend using it for book creation or book covers at this time because of the potential problems that can arise from that. For myself, I don't usually use Canva. I've had enough practice with Photoshop that I'm pretty confident of making whatever I want in terms of ad images or book covers in Photoshop, and I use Photoshop for that. However, since I organized the notes for this episode, there is a major caveat to that. Recently, Canva acquired a program called Affinity Photo Editor, which is essentially a much lower cost alternative to Photoshop. When this happened, there was a great deal of negativity around it because people thought, Canva was going to jack up the price or make it into an overpriced subscription. But what Canva did surprised a great many people in that they made Affinity totally free and essentially are using a freemium model with it where you can use Affinity Photo Editor for free. It used to be, I believe, like $79, possibly $69. And then any of the other features like downloading additional content from Canva would cost part of your Canva subscription. So I have to admit, I'm sufficiently curious about this that when I write the tie-in short story for Wizard Assassin, I may use Affinity Photo Editor to assemble the cover for it, just to see if it would work for that or not. Because, as I've said, I use Photoshop, but Photoshop is very expensive. Adobe frequently does business practices that are a bit shifty, and the idea of a freemium alternative to Photoshop is not necessarily a bad idea. So when I write a tie-in short story for Wizard Assassin later this month, I think I will attempt to make the cover in Affinity Photo Editor and see if that is something that would be good for my workflow or not, and I will report on that later. Number 3 is Notion, which can be used to organize information, links, calendars, and reminders into one central dashboard. They have 2 plans for individuals, a free plan and a plus plan, which is currently $10 to $12 per month, depending on whether you want a monthly or an annual plan. The Plus version offers unlimited file uploads, greater customizations, and integrations with Slack and Google Drive. The pros for using Notion is that it is popular with writers and content creators for being able to have project planning, tools, notes, lists, links, trackers, and reminders all in one dashboard. If you enjoy customization and getting something set up exactly the way you want, you might enjoy setting up your lists, calendars, trackers, and notes through Notion. You can add images and adjust the layout and colors for a more aesthetic experience. It is easy to find customized templates, especially for writers, and writing online for things like storyboarding, word counts, and keeping tracks of sources of nonfiction writing. These Notion templates are shared by individuals, not the company, and can be free or paid. Now, some of the cons with Notion is it didn't used to use very much AI, but the company is leaning increasingly heavy into AI both as a company and in its features on the boards, if that is a concern. The amount of customization options in detail can be absolutely overwhelming. Someone who gets decision fatigue easily or doesn't want to customize a lot might not enjoy using it. Some people are increasingly complaining that the software is getting too overloaded with features and slow. For people who value being organized and love having complex and highly visual systems, Notion might be helpful. The downside is that maintaining your Notion boards can easily turn into what I call a writing adjacent activity that gives you the illusion of productivity because of the time you spend managing and updating it aside from the business of getting actual writing done. So once again, this is a good example of know thyself. If this is something that would be helpful for you, go ahead and pursue it. But if it's something that could turn into a tool for procrastination, it's probably better to avoid it. For myself, I'm old enough that when I need to make lists and keep track of things, I have a yellow legal pad on my desk that I write things down on. The next piece of software we're going to look at is LibreOffice. It is an open source piece of software that closely matches Microsoft Office, including Microsoft Word. Pros, it's free and open source. There is a minimal learning curve for those already familiar with Microsoft Word. The interface is a little different, but it's pretty easy to figure things out if you're familiar with Word or Excel. Some swear that LibreOffice is faster than Word. For that, it depends on the kind of document you're working on and the kind of computer you're using, so that's an area where your mileage may vary. It is also the best word processing option for privacy advocates, especially for those who are concerned about Microsoft and Google storing their work and possibly harvesting it for AI. Because by default, LibreOffice doesn't work with any AI elements. If you want it to work with any AI elements, plugins are available, but they are not included. Great for the writer who doesn't want to support Microsoft for any reason, but still wants to be able to see easily saved documents in Microsoft file formats like DocX. And it works. I've written entire books using it. I wrote all of Soul of Serpents and Soul of Dragons in it, and that was like 13 years ago now. And the software has only improved since then. I wrote Silent Order Eclipse Hand and was in it in 2017 and was very happy with the results. And I still use it for various projects every week. And I found a couple times if something was screwed up in the formatting in Microsoft Word, if I opened up LibreOffice, I could fix it pretty easily and much easier than I could in Word. It does have a few cons. The user interface compared to Word or something like Apple Pages does look a bit dated, but still navigable. And it doesn't have any cloud storage functionality. You would need to piece it together with another storage option if you want to be able to back up stuff to the cloud. But overall, if you can't afford the Microsoft Office suite, don't want to support Microsoft, and value your privacy, this is your best bet for word processing. Some people may not like its interface, but it's still an extremely solid piece of free software. And now let's move on to our fifth software tool, which is Calibre. Calibre is a tool for ebook management. It can be used for file formatting, changing a book's metadata, or changing file formats. Many use it to create a custom ebook library. Pros include the product is free and open source. It is easy to generate different file formats for book publication. And do you want to categorize and organize your books in a very specific way? Calibre works for that. The cons, some people find the interface a little clunky and it comes with a bit of a learning curve. To be honest, the interface does look like it came from Windows 2000. And some of the features rely on a knowledge of HTML and CSS. Editing and formatting of the book itself is better done using other software. Final thoughts on that. The software is trustworthy, reliable, and has been maintained over the years. It does exactly what it says it does, but without any real style, but plenty of substance. And I've been a regular Calibre user for like 15 years now. And whenever I get a new computer, Calibre is usually one of the very first things I install on it. And now for our sixth and final tool, Incarnate. Incarnate is a very useful piece of software that is designed for creating maps. I believe it was originally intended to create maps for role-playing games like Dungeons & Dragons and Pathfinder and so forth. But it's also very useful for creating maps for fantasy novels. As I may have mentioned on the podcast a few times before, I really don't like making maps. I find it constraining and it makes the writing feel a bit crabbed at times. That said, I write primarily in the fantasy genre, and people in the fantasy genre love maps. So I'm kind of on the hook for making maps. I used to draw the map by hand and then import it into Photoshop and add all the locations and add colors and so forth. But that is a lot of work, I have to admit. Incarnate makes it a lot easier, and I've used it for the last couple of maps I've made. The map of the city of Tarkamathian in the Half-Elven Thief books came from Incarnate. The map of Owl Lane for Blades of Ruin came from Incarnate. And the map of New Kyre and adjoining regions for Ghost Armor also came from Incarnate. And it's very affordable too. The subscription, I believe, is only $30 a year, and I've been using it for a few years now and have never regretted it. So I'd say all the pros all the ones are very listed. The cons are that the learning curve is a little bit sharp, but there are excellent YouTube videos and tutorials for that. So final thoughts, if you find yourself needing to make maps and don't enjoy the process of making maps, then Incarnate is the software product for you. So those are 6 software tools for indie authors that I hope will make you more productive and make your work easier. So that is it for this week. Thank you for listening to The Pulp Writer Show. I hope you found the show useful. A reminder that you can listen to all the back episodes on https://thepulpwritershow.com. If you enjoyed the podcast, please leave a review on your podcasting platform of choice. Stay safe and stay healthy, and see you all next week.